So, I was watching a YouTube video, clarifying, going to be working with the person bullied in high school. And I know who that story is about. I know who the person going to be working with is also. So to know that they're in a human resources role, that the part that scares me isn't the factor of, oh, incapable of change, unable to go ahead and, like, how could this person have been merciless and ruthless while at the same time now their employment is solely an ability to be able to go ahead and, make a determination that would have a civil and peaceful outcome that would actually be beneficial and, non detrimental to, a non hostile work environment. Not the way that I'm looking at it. If anything, the way that I'm looking at it is, first off, ways to remedy. Make it publicly known that you were the asshole. Make it known that any of the bullying tactics that I had to deal with, because I had to deal with them for decades, they stop. Full blown, make sure they stop. Next factor. No more trying to control the way that my life is able to move forward because you had too much fun going ahead and victimizing somebody because of the factor of the lack of control that you had in your personal situation. And understand, with the amount of therapy that I ended up having to get because of that, I've recognized exactly where the factors ended up coming in your personal life and, the lack of blatant regard for the circumstance that I had going on in my life, considering the factor of being taken away from my family by CPS, having to go ahead and deal with those mock trials as far as pins, petitions, persons in need of supervision, going ahead and, the attempt to go ahead and try to chase me out of school, regardless of the factor of trying to do what I could to be able to help everybody else with their learning also, because ultimately I had ambitions. I had them from a very young age. I mean, literally, I was a loser my whole life, and, I didn't expect anything to change. But the funny thing is, even people that knew me in elementary school knew the factor that, I had ambitions. You know? I mean, my top choice school was Princeton. So, my point is, all is capable of being forgiven. But if having to go ahead and work together is going to cause an uphill battle that's going to be detrimental, and that's going to go ahead and seep toxicity, that's going to seep out into my personal life, the way that the whole situation ended up seeping into my personal life on a prolonged level. I'm talking almost 20 fucking years. Then there's no way, it doesn't matter what the fucking pay grade is, that I'd be able to go ahead and accept the job offer. An acknowledgement of the factor of who you were in the past does not need to be who you are now. Just the way, like, there are factors from my past that I recognize that I was a complete and total asshole because I was mad about the position that I got put in, and I had to go ahead and heal from everything that I had to go through, while at the same time getting put through more and more relentlessly. And nobody ever cut me a fucking break. Acknowledge it. If you're able to acknowledge it, you're able to be transparent about it, you're able to go ahead and say, hey, despite the tumultuous nature of, past circumstances, working together would be able to be possible, and if anything, would be beneficial to all parties. As long as none of the manipulation tactics end up coming into play. No more of personality politics. No more divisionism. No more microaggressions. No more, laughs at anybody's expense. No more ridiculed. No more pranks. The work is work. As long as I get my acknowledgement for the part of the work that I contributed to be able to go ahead and make the job position even capable. That. I'm guessing the factor that everything ended up coming to a complete and total standstill without my actual contribution because everybody else ended up getting debunked about the role that they ended up playing in it, while at the same time, the amount of time and everything that I ended up putting in as well as a personal investment. I'm guessing that ultimately on a legal litigation factor, it ended up getting found out, hey, the project can't continue on without them being involved, regardless of past situations. So I'm guessing that ultimately any further prosperity going forward completely hinges on me being willing to be involved again after the amount of damage that the whole situation ended up causing. Because understand too, when I say I ended up sacrificing, I mean it literally ended up getting to the point I got worked to the point where my health ended up going completely downhill. I mean, I'm even looking at the factor that I'm having to go to doctor's appointments because I ended up having to have 2 procedures to even try to save my leg. If you've ever ended up sacrificing everything just to go ahead and get a fair shot going forward, while everyone keeps trying to rip the rug out from under you, you'll understand that uphill battle. I never got to catch a break from that. I mean, literally, that car accident that happened in December, and the way that it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, is because it gave me a chance to be able to be removed from the situation and to actually get a chance to rest. And we're talking even after that last fucking, circumstance he ended up going ahead and orchestrating of having bed bugs drug into my apartment while having me under constant fucking surveillance for years on end, getting eaten by bloodborne parasites, and act like I'm supposed to go ahead and turn a blind eye and keep my mouth shut about it. You completely destroying my circadian rhythm, my capability of being able to keep a normal sleep cycle, while at the same time, because of the sleep paralysis that I end up dealing with already, and the PTSD that I've had to deal with, it's already difficult enough time to even have any type of semblance of normalcy. So, acknowledge the faults that were contributed on your end. I acknowledge my part in things. Acknowledge that you went too far. And I acknowledge that my response could have been a lot better. Acknowledge that ultimately, I may not be able to see you in a human resources role because of past personal experience. And acknowledge the factor that I have every right, after how everything ended up turning out, to feel that way. And in exchange, I could acknowledge the factor that despite my personal circumstances and experiences, that I need to be able to go ahead and be able to leave the past in the past, to be able to give a chance to be able to show that you're capable of being able to do the job the way that I want that same fair shake. No more of who deserves which job better and why, and who contributed more or less. No more of the nitpicking into oblivion. No more even being willing to destroy people's personal lives just to try to be able to get ahead. Without an equal contribution, ultimately, as you got to see, the project would completely and utterly fall apart regardless. If my main concern after everything, after this last almost 20 fucking years of contributions, my main concern was wondering and worrying about what would end up happening as far as the weaponization of the Imperial data that ended up getting collected from everything. All aspects and roles played. Obviously, my dedication was never in question. So, stop trying to make it impossible for me to be able to do my job and putting in question my capability or worthiness of being able to take the role that I had worked and the job that I had worked relentlessly to try to get. And in exchange, I don't need to go ahead and try to make your job as difficult as possible the way you tried to do to me. My job at this point, going forward, I need to do what I need to do to be able to have my fucking stability that nobody else can ever try to rip the rug out from under me again.